Hey guys, we're just going to jump right into nationalism, and as another one of our isms, we're going to now connect the events to this ideology. The characteristics of nationalism is that the idea that cultural unity and self-government will come together. So if a people group have a common language, they have a common history and traditions that they share, they should have unity and able to have self-determination of what type of government they would want to have. Um, because of the French Revolution and the Napoleonic Wars, this really was the origins of what we see nationalism beginning to come into reality and take action. And those that support nationalism are typically on the liberal side, and even those that are even more radical, the Democrats. Um, Individuals is Johann Gottfried Herder, 1744 to 1803. He is regarded as the father of modern nationalism, and his idea was that every cultural group was unique in possessing a distinct national character. Why?
Because I need to get the addresses from your friends' messages.
You're not on there?
I forgot to put myself in there.
They came up with Volksgeist, which is the spirit of the people or nation. And each culture and people group are very unique to themselves. And he thinks that every nation should be sovereign. And within that nation, they have the same nationality. Okay, they have the same identity and culture. And then we have Johann Gottlieb Fichte, who is known as the father of German nationalism. Okay, and so he's adding on to what Herder describes what nationalism is, and he believes that the German people have the superiority over other peoples, and so we're going to look at how did their ideas influence some of these events. Okay, first we're going to talk about the national revolutionary movements. These took place right after the Congress of Vienna, after the Napoleonic Wars, and the first one is going to be Spain. So there's a revolution that rose up, and the Congress of Vienna decided they would have the principle of intervention, right, with the Congress of Europe, Concert of Europe, and so French troops were sent by Austria, Prussia, and Russia, and by RAP, and the French troops went into Spain to stop the revolution there, and that happened in 1820. Okay. Other examples of other movements that happened towards revolution was in Italy, in Naples, which is in the southern part of Italy. A revolution was encouraged by these liberal organizations, these secret nationalist organizations. One famously known as the Carbonari, and they're called that because of the charcoal marks. The charcoal burns, so they mark your head with some charcoal to signify that you're part of that organization. And so the Carbonari are protesting the absolute rule of Ferdinand I, who is the king of the Kingdom of Two Sicilies, which is down in the southern part of Italy. And we know that Italy right now is still fragmented, and eventually they'll unite and be one country. But at this point, they're trying to achieve unification, but they're unsuccessful. Okay, so what stops them? The Congress of Vienna, once again, sends troops. This time it's Austrian troops, and they end and stop the revolution there. In northern Italy, in Piedmont, you have an uprising in the Austrian forces, which had a lot of claim in the northern Italian states. That's where Metternich did not want to have any revolution at all, and he stopped that with his troops. Okay, one successful one though is the Greek Revolution. This takes place in 1821, 1829. Europeans were asking the Eastern question. Okay, so the Eastern question was which European countries would fill the void in the Balkans. So remember, we talked about the Balkans as part of that peninsula on the eastern side of Europe, going into the Mediterranean, sticking out. Okay, which European countries would fill the void in the Balkans resulting from the decline of the Ottoman Empire? So the Ottoman Empire is on its decline. Who is going to step in and try to claim a lot of the territory that's happening in the Balkans? And one thing to know, as with any empire, is that you have a lot of multi-ethnicities and many with these people groups are trying to achieve independence and have nationalism. Okay, so England, France, and Russia begin to think about this question, and they want to answer it. And so they teamed up with Greece, and they recognized that Greece, as a Christian nation owned by and controlled by the Ottoman Turks, which are Muslim, they felt that they could join them in trying to defeat the Turkish and Egyptian forces in Greece. Eventually, they are successful, and then you have the Treaty of Adrianople, which comes in 1829. This recognizes the Greek autonomy, so they have independence, and Russia has successfully defeated the Turks in war. Russia, who's also Christian Orthodox, the Greeks are also Christian Orthodox, so they felt like there was kind of that association and alliance. However, their main concern was really just to weaken the Ottoman Empire, who had a lot of control down in Turkey and Romania, Bulgaria, that region. Okay, so the significance of all these national revolutionary movements is, with the Greek Revolution being successful, 3 out of the 5 members of the original BARP, the quintuplet alliance, right, plus France, England, France, Russia, the 3 out of the 5 that were part of the concert of Europe, they supported nationalism by supporting Greece. And so this is actually a shift in saying that, you know what, instead of being all on the same page about conservatism, they were open to nationalism if it was best into their interests of their state. Okay? All right, okay, so jumping into the revolutions of 1830, these revolts were sparked by liberalism and nationalism, no surprise, right? And they felt that they were being oppressed by the conservatives once again, and things are not progressing, but they're regressing. Okay, so the July Revolution happens in July 26th of 1830. This is where it really just magnifies. The current king is King Charles X, who comes after Louis XVIII, and he basically is a reactionary, and he's going back into a very absolutist type of rule, and he wants to get rid of the constitutional monarchy. He puts in to his cabinet a lot of ultra royalist members, and he's really trying to return France to its old regime social classes. And so, in addition, he takes away the voting rights of middle class bourgeoisie individuals that normally would participate in government, but now he's trying to change that. So what ends up happening is that a radical revolt in Paris comes, and after fighting for 3 days, Charles is eventually going to abdicate the throne, and the government is going to collapse. So who comes after him? Yes, so Louis Philippe, who is the cousin of Charles X, Duke of Orleans, and he's a new king. He agrees to the Constitutional Charter of 1814, and so France is now accepted to return back to a constitutional monarchy, keeping that. And his nickname is the Bourgeoisie King or the Citizens King because he dressed like a middle class member. He was representative of helping the middle class people. And so at this point, under Louis Philippe, France was controlled by upper middle class bourgeoisie bankers and businessmen, and their political beliefs, their political associations is that they are moderate but liberal, okay, and many of the changes that they would, of course, induct would be supported for their own needs, right? And so basically the upper middle class is benefiting from this change, but those that supported liberalism and wanted to have more change, especially the working class, they're being shafted. Only the upper middle class bourgeoisie is really getting any favorable reforms. Okay, and so because of the openness of the middle class and trying to get more people to have vote, the amount of voters increased from 100,000 to 200,000. So it doubled, which is a good amount, except that many of those that follow liberalism did not imagine that they would fall short so much of actually seeing true reforms in France. So the impact of the July Revolution really originated by the motivation for liberalism, okay, but the impact is that it would spark a wave of revolutions throughout Europe. And those revolutions are going to be founded more on nationalism. But Metternich said a quote. He said, "When France sneezes, the rest of Europe catches a cold." And this is going to be representative of what happens right in France, because throughout Europe they're going to hear about it, and they are going to be inspired by the July Revolution of 1830. Okay, all right. So in Italy, you have the northern states in 1831, Modena, Parma, and the Papal States. They're like northern central. Okay, we're going to see some outbreaks that happen there because they are very discontent with their government. They want to see more liberal reforms. You have the Carbonari that are there, right? They're the secret national society. They're trying to use force to achieve national unification of all the Italian states. They're going to fail, and eventually, you have Giuseppe Mazzini, who was a Carbonari member. And he's going to be a part of a new revolutionary society, a new movement called Young Italy, and they are trying to call for the unification of the Italian states to create an Italian republic that is independent. Giuseppe is going to be unsuccessful because of Metternich and the Austrian troops that were sent to enforce the policy of intervention. And so all of the revolutions would be crushed. However, it would not end just here, because the Italian Risorgimento, which is a movement, will continue in holding on to that spirit of unification to see Mazzini's dream come true. And so Risorgimento means resurgence of the Italian spirit. Okay, so we have Germany. So in this time, we know that right after the Conference of Vienna, you have the Carlsbad Decrees, which basically Metternich is instituting upon the German Confederation that there's no freedoms for liberals and nationalists to meet and to have this type of ideas circulating amongst universities, right? So they're cracking down on them, suppressing it, and when they heard about the July Revolution, it inspired those university students a lot, like Les Mis and all that good stuff. Those that believed in nationalism and would put out demonstrations in the streets. What ends up happening is that they forced these temporary constitutions in some of these minor German states. However, did they really see effective change? Did they really desire to have German unification and actually see it through? It did not happen. So even though there was a desire there, Metternich comes in again and crushes any types of uprising, and because the Austrian chair is the president of the Diet for the German Confederation, they have no say really, and they're held behind. Okay, but that will change too. Okay, so in Belgium, okay, Belgium was merged with Holland in 1815, according to the Conference of Vienna, and so now they are one. They are the Kingdom of Netherlands at 1815. The problem is that those that were Belgian, they did not like to be ruled by the Dutch, those of Holland and the Netherlands. Okay, so the reason why is because they nationally are different, right? They have a different language, they have a different religion. The Dutch are Calvinists, they're Protestants. The Belgians are Catholic, and their economic lives are very different too. And so their identity, their common nationality was different, even though they're merged together. So once again, the July Revolution comes, and they're inspired, and they resist the Dutch revolt, and they have a bunch of students and industrial workers. So students and the working class are going to be two common themes of those that are looking to lead the way for nationalism. Okay, eventually the Dutch army is going to be defeated, and they're going to be forced to withdraw from Belgium. And so eventually the Belgian state will be created. They will have a constitutional monarchy with King Leopold taking the throne in 1831, and they were going to write a constitution by their National Congress, and by 1839, because they agreed to be neutral, they are going to gain their independence, and the great powers, right, BARP plus France, is going to accept them. All right, last territory is going to be Poland. Poland, very simply and shortly, they're taking over, partition of Poland. They're nothing, right? So for Russia, where Nicholas replaces Alexander, Nicholas the First basically is going to crush the uprising that it was once led by students again, and then eventually aristocrats, which would dislike, very discontent with the royal government always in control, and they want to resist that. But the uprising was crushed by Nicholas I, and so Russia's domination of Poland will continue. He institutes the Organic Statute of 1832, which declares that Poland is going to be an integral part of the Russian Empire. Well, wasn't it already part of the Russian Empire? Well, yes. When Alexander wanted to annex Poland, it was a union. It was a union, but now it's changed to be called an eternal incorporation of Poland into Russia. Very absolute, very firm. It's eternal, right? So what's happening specifically is Parliament is going to be abolished in Poland. The armies of Poland is going to be merged with the Russian army, and you even have thousands of Poles executed and exiled because they were rebelling. Okay. All right. So tomorrow's DBQ. And I hope you guys have been looking over your past one, did the practice one, right? Okay, all right, good.